Welcome to the world united. Welcome to the world united.
What an amazing, diverse group we have here. Just with 3 people, such amazing diversity. It's just, it's thrilling. So wonderful to have you here. And thank you all for being here. We're gonna have a little fun now, and a little extemporaneous talking and answering of questions. So the first thing, just to lighten it up and get to know you a little bit more personally, I would love to know, did any of you throughout your life, have you had any nicknames? And what have people used as nicknames for you? So go ahead and just raise your hand and let me know if, yeah.
I've never had a nickname.
Never had a nickname. Okay.
No.
Well, yeah, my parents had little nicknames for each of the kids, and my when I'm traveling in India and Africa and stuff, they also use my full name. They say Shomperi. But not really a nickname, but it's a little different than what I get in my normal life. Rodolfo.
Yeah, I do. I have a bunch because my name's not usually that easy to pronounce. So
Exactly.
as a kid, my cousins called me Fofi, F-O-F-I, right?
Okay.
Which is a shortening of the name. But then as I grew up, so I get called Rudolph, Rodo, even R-O, just Ro. So yeah.
Okay. Fun. Nice. All right. Fofi. Nice. I like that. Itbarak, how about you? You got a fun name. How has that been for you?
I don't have a nickname, but my mother, she used to call me in some way, abbreviating my name, like shortening it. So she calls me Yitbey. It's Yitbarak, my name. So
right.
She has her own way, Yitbey. So
okay,
that was it. But it was only in the house.
In the house. So in the United States, you work with people and get them to say your real name, your full name?
I tell them sometimes when they struggle, I tell them Yit, just the first 3 letters of my name. But I always understand that it's difficult, my name. So I take whatever way they call me. So I don't mind.
Yeah. When I'm in foreign countries, they have a hard time, and my name's not long, but they have a hard time saying it. So yeah. Great. So I'm going to thank you guys. I'm going to take a moment and just find out. So oftentimes in mentoring and in trying to get people to go a little deeper, we ask people to ask themselves, who am I and why am I here? So when I just finished a practitioner training for Qigong, and we had to ask that with a partner over and over and over and give different answers until we finally got to the depth of what it was. So you gave all these different names. You know, I'm Sean Perry. I'm a coach. I'm a performer. And just kept listing and it took like 10 minutes till we got to the root. Who are you? And it was so powerful. It was emotional. By that point, that you go through the various layers of who you are. And so we're not going to take 10 minutes with each of you, but I would love to just get your simple answer. Who are you and why are you here? So please go ahead and respond as you feel inspired. So if you speak, then you'll jump onto the front and you'll be the one sharing. So go ahead and just start talking.
Sure. Well, I'll start. I've asked myself that so many times because, I had so much trauma growing up. I was just surrounded by it. And I would wonder, like, why am I here? Like, what is the purpose of this all? And I noticed that most people, when you ask them who they are, they talk about themselves either in terms of their work or in terms of their relationships to others. But when I think about who am I think of it in more like, I am joy. I am determination, innovation, and tenacity. And that's really the way I think about it, because I think those are the virtues that I was born to learn and bring with everything that I do. And so it's just kind of part of the value set that I chose for myself, that are the rules I live by.
Right. You created that. Yeah. And did you come to, I mean, it seems that you've come to an answer of why you're here, at least at this point on your journey. So what's the answer to that one at this point?
Yeah, I'm here to experience life, everything life has to offer. It's not all happy stuff. But what I have learned is that in order to experience tremendous joy and happiness is that we somehow need to have the opposite of that, because it's in the reflection of those things that we really experience. Otherwise, everything is kind of middle ground. That's been my experience, is that the more that I came to terms with and processed the negative emotions, the more of the positive emotions that I could truly feel in my body and see in my life. So I find that for myself, that's been very profound to realize that connection, and then not fight against the stuff that I don't like quite as much, because in the fighting, in the resisting it, it kind of seems to make it stronger. So instead, it's about, well, how do I let it go and create something that's better?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I mean, you said it earlier, but it sounds like also, besides just letting it go, learning something from it and taking the good that you learned from it with you into that next level. So, I mean, it sounds like that's what you've been doing, right?
Yeah. And I decided that actually really quite young, because my mom became paranoid schizophrenic when I was around 3, I guess. And so I remember witnessing from a very young age her not really, I mean, breathing, but not really doing much else. And I remember from a very young age thinking, like, I need to not only experience everything life has to offer for me, but maybe even for her as well. And so it's just given me this drive to really experience life.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, love that. We have one of the other panelists who would like to share. Who are you and why are you here? Yudbarek, go ahead. And Rodolfo right after, please.
Thank you. Thank you, by the way, for asking that question. Very powerful question. I don't think anybody asked me this question before, so I'm very grateful to answer this very important question. I'm divine. I'm eternal. I am beyond this physical body, and although I'm very grateful for this beautiful body I have, and I am a child of God. I'm created by the image of Him, and I am here, as our sisters said it, I'm here to experience life, to prepare myself for the greater expression. I'm here to share life, the abundant life that I have with my brothers and sisters. So I'm here for the purpose.
Wonderful. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, and that's to know that makes a huge difference. If you live in that every day, that makes all the difference, right? It changes the way you live, the way you think, the way your reactions to other people, the way you interact with other people, all of that. It's a foundation. It's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Rodolfo.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a very good question. I like playing the game with myself about I'm not my body, I'm not the emotions that come up, and I am not my mind, but I am that who becomes aware of all that. right? So I'm consciousness, right? And I'm here to just experience life and have fun with it, right? As we become detached from all of that, and we just become the observer or consciousness, then life becomes a game. And it's a very fun game. And as a video games, like there's some parts of the game that are frustrating and that you have to go over and over and over again so you can like overcome them. But when you learn to see life as a game, as a video game, it's like, so you're playing, it's like you get frustrated and like, okay, so I'll try again. Then it becomes fun. So yeah, that's my answer.
Cool. That's wonderful. You're touching on some of the stuff that I've been studying in the Bhagavad Gita. That's beautiful. Yeah, ancient concepts, going beyond the conscious self into the witness of the conscious. And I love it. It's really powerful. Wonderful. Now I'm going to dive in, since we are talking about youth empowerment, and each of you have powerful stories as you've grown and learned and figured out how to navigate through your youth and now into adulthood. But I'd like to get your viewpoints on, so what are some of the limiting beliefs that we have perpetuated in our generation and that maybe are outdated, and that maybe we don't want to pass on to the coming generation? What the things that are limiting us from being able to step into our true selves, our divine selves, our true potential? And that, I mean, basically it's epidemic proportions in the past years, and hopefully if we can address them properly and lift the consciousness of humanity, maybe some of those limiting beliefs will go away, and the coming generation and the generation after that will grow up without us passing on that legacy. So if you can pinpoint one or two, but specific belief maybe that we can change, if you could go ahead and think for a moment about that, and then share with us. Again, I'm not going to call on you until you feel inspired, and then raise your hand or just step up. Please go ahead, Rodolfo, and then Yitbarek.
Right. Yeah, I think that when I grew up, there was still this idea of I'm going to be happy when, right? When I graduate, when I get this kind of job, when I achieve this kind of success, when I have these kind of things, and obviously it becomes more and more clear that it really doesn't matter how much you have or how much you've achieved. Happiness doesn't come with that. Right? Happiness is an inner state, right, that we develop from working with or developing the right mindset, right, and attitude towards life. So if we could teach that since we're kids, right, teach how to deal with our emotions, teach happiness, like the science of happiness since we're kids, the world would be much better, right? We wouldn't be running around chasing so much stuff just to recognize or realize that it doesn't make sense, right? We get to a point where it's like, okay, so I have all this, but I don't have what I really want, which was happiness and peace, right? So I think that's one of the main beliefs we need to break and just start teaching that from very early age.
Yeah, beautiful. Actually, earlier today, Jonathan England was talking about just creating our problems so that we could try to fix them, and then running after everything that is actually already there, and trying to find it out there when it's actually right here. And so, yeah, perfect. And we can teach that, and happiness in the present moment, every step of the journey. Yeah, and love it, love it. Yitbarek, please.
Yes, especially other belief. For years I've observed this in my personal life and in others, especially when I was in Africa, expecting life to come from the outside, from the other side, or from the government, from the family, from whoever, to me, than knowing that the life emanates from me. So knowing that I am the creator of my ideas and my experience, it helps a lot, because that will help us also to take responsibility, because most of the time in the community I lived in, we used to complain, let's say the government, teachers, the employers. So always is looking from the other side, the correction, the adjustment. So now that I realize that we have complete life that we can experience, we can project and work for it, than expecting from the outside. So I always, encourage youth to look inwardly and take responsibility to co-create their own life.
Oh yeah, that's powerful. We've all dealt with that in different ways, right? Seeking for it externally. Yeah, wonderful. Brenda, do you have something to comment on with this?
Yeah, I have two things actually. I think there's this belief system that failure is somehow bad, or that we need to protect our children from failure or adversity. And then the second part is how distant so many of us are from nature. And so going back, I think that in order to create humans that over the course of our life have higher resilience and ability to deal with things like what's going on today in our world, is we need to learn how to fail and know that it's okay. Like the failure itself is not a reflection of who we are as human beings. And I'm not saying it has to be massive, like all-encompassing pain type of failures, but I think protecting, like I've known people that wouldn't even discipline their child when he threw a handful of dirt in a guest's face. Like, there needs to be guidelines. Like, I feel really bad for children that have no sense of failure, because when they go out in the real world, they can be overwhelmed by what might happen. So I think that's really important, to experience failure and know that failure is okay. It's just a step in the journey. Like the only failure really is to stop, just keep going. And then also I think with everyone having technology in every moment of their lives is a challenge, because we, as residents of planet Earth, we really need to feel connected to the earth. And part of that is just, whether it's just going in the backyard barefoot, or actually going out into a forest or into nature, I think is critically important for feeling like we're a part of something bigger than ourselves.
I could not agree more. That's so important. Mm-hmm. I mean, I live in New York City. It's so I make sure that I go out and spend time in the park at least a few times a week. Otherwise, concrete jungle, and especially with COVID and the quarantine, it's like, really? That's my life? What? Yes. It's so important to connect with nature and to connect with others. So powerful. And we could go in so many different directions. I've only got a couple more questions for you all. And actually, I'm going to kind of go right from where we are on this idea, because it's been brought up in other sessions, and I think it'd be powerful to hear your perspectives on this. Many studies have shown that the coming generation is a generation with a culture of entitlement. They haven't had to go through wars and deep depressions of soup lines and with 50% unemployment, for years at a time. And it's just, we haven't had to deal with that for a few generations. And so we're in this place, and just a couple of ideas about that. For instance, the debt ratio is super, super high at this point, because these children grow up in some nice homes. They get their car, they get their whatever, they get their computers, they get all that. And then when they get out and they're on their own, they're like, well, I want a life just like what my mom and dad had. But they worked for it for 30, 50 years to get to that point, to have a nice home and cars. But this coming generation is saying, I'm going to do it right now. And they get out of college and they go into extreme debt so that they can live that level of, they're not willing to go through the poverty years to figure out how to run a business, to figure out how to grow and learn and become. So just with those kind of things in mind, how can we counter this culture of entitlement? And, or do we need to? Do we need to address it at all? Is it going to work itself out? Or are there ways that we can actually try to counter it and teach otherwise?
Rodolfo. I will. Sure. I think there's two sides to that. One, I love the idea of we all deserve to have a beautiful life, right? And if that's entitlement, it's like, yeah. But then we got to counter that with, okay, so let's create it, right? For example, the world produces more than enough food for everyone in the world to eat. Yet there's still a large population of the world that goes hungry. Why? That doesn't make sense, right? So it's like, yeah, we all deserve to have a beautiful life. So let's create it, but we need to change the system for that. So if we feel entitled to a beautiful life, I think that's right, but you got to create that, right? It's like, so let's go ahead and let's change the system so that that can actually happen, right? Because the old system of just working really hard to get into a point where I'm just exhausted, I have a lot, but I'm exhausted, doesn't make sense, right? So I think that if we combine those, if we address the situation on both sides, one is, yes, we all deserve to have well-being, beautiful life, enjoy, and the other side is like the system's not working, so we need to change the system, then I think that's a beautiful combination, right? So I love the idea of I feel entitled, but not I feel entitled, so I'm not doing anything, I'm complaining. It's like I feel entitled and I'm proposing that we change the system. And I think that's really powerful.
Change the system. I'm not positive what you mean by that, but so the corporate system?
The whole system, system of, for example, we start off at a point where privilege, right? So if you have a college degree, if you have parents that will finance that college degree, then you get an advantage, right? Then you can have that beautiful life. But if you don't, then it's really hard. So it's like, how about we level that off, right? How about we change the system so it doesn't mean that the ones who have it becomes easier for them to have, and the ones who don't have, it's like they're never going to reach it. It's like, how can we shift that around? Healthcare. It's like if you have money, you get access to beautiful healthcare in the States. Like in Costa Rica, we have universal healthcare. So that's check, right? It's like everyone deserves to have healthcare, right? Why does my health depend on if I have money or not? That doesn't make any sense, right? We all deserve to take care of each other. So when we talk about the system, not only corporate, it's just the whole economic system of if I have access, if I don't have access to basic stuff, like food, shelter, and healthcare, that's absurd, right? It's like we should all have access to basic stuff, right? And then it's like the rest, like we'll figure that out when we get there. But the basic stuff, everyone should have access to that. Right?
Great. Thank you for clarifying that. That's great.
Yeah, no, thank you for the question.
Yeah, wonderful. Yudbarek, you had your hand up.
Yeah, it's tricky for me, the question, but on the other hand, I feel that we need to have a balance or some kind of understanding that this material entitlement doesn't bring us that much true happiness, because the more we get, the more we want to get. So we need to know that in this earthly life, we came here without having nothing that except that we have our family that they train us know ourselves and to know how to do things, to start deliveries, to start creating, and then know the process. So this kind of entitlement will take us probably to some kind of challenge. Then when we are cornered, then we may probably be awake, because of that challenge, and then we have to respond. So I think this will lead, unless we realize, will lead some kind of breakout, like, it will challenge us completely, and then probably that's when we realize the true resource of life and the true wealth of life. So otherwise, satisfaction will be difficult, and also because gratitude is very important. And then when we have less sometimes, and then when we have that hunger, sometimes you have some days that, let's say, a day that you abstain to eat, and then you eat at the end of the day or at the end of the next day, you enjoy that meal, the regular meal. You really feel good. You enjoy each piece of that meal, that glass of water. So I think that's how we can realize when we have less sometime, and then we know that having more, it doesn't change that much too. So this is how I see it. I don't know if I explained what I'm.
I think so. I love that, because it's through the struggles that we grow. And if we never had struggles, how are we going to learn and grow and gain wisdom during this lifetime? So teaching the children that it's okay to struggle. It's okay to go through hard times. That's part of our existence here. And that you shouldn't just live in ease and luxury with zero opposition your whole life. That's not what you're here for. And that's okay to go through some difficult times. And yes, then create, as Rodolfo was saying, go through that process of creating the life that you want. And that's wonderful, but taking responsibility for that. I love that. That harkens right back to what Brenda was saying earlier about going through the hard times and learning from it and growing and figuring it out as you go, and not just and taking that with you. And yeah, thank you. Brenda, did you have something to share?
Yeah, in my experience, there's always been people that thought the world owed them a living. They thought they should be able to, it doesn't matter how they were born. That's what I've noticed. They would just kind of sit there and expect life to just give them everything they wanted. And I mean, I haven't done a study to say what kind of growing up they came from. I've just always noticed those people, but there does seem to be more of them in the younger generations today than in the past, which could be just because it's a larger cohort as well. The thing is, I think, when we talk about, like Rodolfo was talking about system, I think in our society, we have a lot of do as I say, not as I do kind of people that are our leaders. And so, we have so many of them. Oh yeah, do as I say, not as I do. Like they say one thing, but they don't do that. So they're not really good role models. So I think we only have the influence within our certain circles, and certainly within ourselves, as far as dealing with the culture of entitlement. Some of those people will probably just cruise through life, not really having experienced a lot outside of that sense of entitlement. Others might have life kind of give them a correction and hopefully they'll have an awakening through that difficult experience. But I think the only thing that we can do is be a role model in the sense of doing both, saying what and living what we say, right? So yeah, I think that's the only way. And when I encounter, like, I tend to see things differently than the majority of people. And most of the time, I don't hold back. I don't want to come across aggressively, but I won't withhold my opinion just because it's the dissenting one. but I'll share it in a way that people can take it or leave it. Like, I'm not trying to push it. It's just kind of like, this has been my experience, and hopefully people with the sense of entitlement will get something out of it. But what's interesting about the food supply issue is, you know, there's people that have studied it, you know, about 40% of our food that's generated now goes directly into the garbage. And more people die from obesity globally than starvation since 2006 is when I read the report, which I was stunned by. So yeah, there's definitely some stuff that's upside down in our world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. And if we can teach the younger generation to understand that, and as Barak was saying, to work from the inside out, to find that satisfaction from the inside and not from the external world, then we're going to use the abundance that comes to us to serve others. And yes, 100%. So we're coming to the end here, and I would like to give you an opportunity to share just any words of advice. If we can keep this, you know, fairly short, maybe just a few sentences, very simple. And maybe if you feel so inspired, maybe something rather than a nice platitude that's like, oh, that's nice to remember, but maybe something that's practical, something that the youth or that, you know, anyone, whoever, because I mean, there's going to be thousands of people, who knows, millions of people watching this, and if you can share something with them that maybe they can incorporate into their life, their way of thinking, their daily practice, and just a little bit of wisdom from each of you as we sign off, that would be fabulous. So if you want to take a second and think that through, you know, be able to say it nice and concise, maybe within 1 minute, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, what I'd like to say is, you know, I think the real gems of how to really up-level your experience of life is in really digging deep into, like, if you think you're entitled about something, or you think you don't, you know, deeper about any of these issues that we've talked about, you know, if something's not going your way, or you don't have the latest smartphone, or social media isn't, you know, liking your posts as much, like, go deeper and see, like, what is the message underneath that. And I think that's really where the gold of life is, and where we can really have such a larger experience of the day to day and why we're here, than just, you know, oh, my phone broke, you know, woe is me, right?
Well, you speak from experience of taking the difficult things in life and turning it around and saying, okay, what lessons do I learn from this, and how can I move forward? So yes, beautiful words of wisdom. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. I would say be happy, just being yourself, be grateful that you are experiencing this beautiful life. Appreciate yourself and love yourself, and be grateful that you have others with you, to be with you, and you to be with them, and to share life. So that's amazing for me, knowing myself and appreciating and taking care of my body, and also loving my brothers and sisters.
Perfect. So a very, very strong underlying idea of gratitude across the board there. Gratitude and love. Thank you, Barak. Appreciate that. Rodolfo.
I want to piggyback on what Brenda was saying. I love the phrase, Gandhi's phrase, be the change you want to see in the world, right? So, but to be the change, we first got to bring our awareness within and recognize what's going on. And that's, I think that's the key to everything. It's just learn to listen to your own stories, learn to recognize your own beliefs, and work with yourself. And as we work with ourselves, then we start expanding, we start influencing others, and that's leadership. And that's why I work leadership, is, you know, and that's the way I work leadership. It's from within. It's like, what's going on within me that I'm influencing others from there. right? So it's just spend some time each day. Just, well, it's like we should have 1 year always focused towards the inside, and then the other one towards the outside, right? But at least once a day, just stop and become aware. It's like, what am I thinking? What am I doing? It's like, why am I doing these things? Because we can change anything that happens within us if we become aware of it. So just bring your awareness inside and choose to be the change you want to see.
Beautiful. Beautiful words of wisdom from amazing people. Did you have something else you wanted to say?
Yeah, actually, I have one more practice that I just wanted to share that really builds on everything we've said. And that is, when I'm experiencing challenges in life, like I literally ask myself, what do I need to change within me so that I can get different results of what's going on? So it really is related, but I literally ask that question to myself, sometimes out loud even. And I find that's a really, really helpful question. What do I need to change within me to get different results in my life?
You're almost quoting from the book Anatomy of Peace by the Arbiter Institute. Such a powerful concept and a powerful book. If any of you haven't read it, I highly recommend it, Anatomy of Peace, because yes, 100%. Look inside, and then see how that changes the outside. And yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing your love and your wisdom. And we've been richly blessed by having you here. So thank you, all three of you. Namaste.
Namaste.
And I hope to be connected to you in the future. Have a great rest of your day, and thank you everyone for joining us across the globe.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Wow.
Bye now.